Maximilian Schierstedt. I work for Nokia Gate 5. Nokia Gate 5 is the company responsible within Nokia for location-based services and search. We are based in Berlin. We used to be an independent company and were bought and acquired by Nokia a year ago. I'm responsible for all commercial and strategic partnerships within Nokia Gate 5. That includes several content deals, content partnerships, services, and the map content itself.
Thank you.
Okay. My name is Onno Terwischa. I work for KPN. Before this, I had 10 years experience at Capgemini, business to business, all internet-related projects. My role as innovation manager at KPN is designing, advising, piloting new mobile services, anything besides calling and texting. But lately, last half year, I've been focusing on location-based services.
Right. Ben?
Hello, my name is Ben Vandenberg. I work for WebAds and my title is Business Development Director. I'm responsible for the new revenue streams on new platforms, and at the moment that means with video and mobile.
Right.
Well, and last but not least, hopefully, my name is Lucien Groenhuizen. I'm Managing Director of TomTom Mobility Solutions. I'm responsible for creating dynamic content within TomTom. Most important at this moment is the introduction of HD traffic, high definition traffic, which we recently introduced in the Netherlands. Now planning to launch it also in the UK and Germany this year.
Thank you. Okay, next. We have a few questions about your own vision concerning location-based services. Maybe you could elaborate on the current application which you have and the applications that you will develop in the coming year. Maximilian?
So the current product that we have within Nokia Gate 5 is Nokia Maps. Nokia Maps is a free mapping application that is was pre-installed with the N95 and its successors. The Nokia Maps product will be pre-installed on every Nokia Series 60 device leaving the factory of Nokia. And the future projects will make sure that everything that we have established on Nokia Maps will also go from mobile towards web. So there has been a launch 3.5 months ago in London at the Go Play event where we launched Ovi. Ovi.com is going to be a multi-platform where all Nokia services will be combined. That means that you have games, that you have music, and that you have maps. The platform will allow that you have a certain context connecting between those services wherever that's possible. But the clear message is that with Ovi we are establishing a platform that is going web, and that was the main claim that we actually gave out a year ago to become an internet company. That means establishing a platform where services and content can be distributed and of course monetized.
Okay, thanks. Ben?
Yeah.
Are there any current LBS applications in the advertising space within mobile?
No, at the moment, so that's why I was interested in the geofencing. But when I think of LBS services, I think a lot of back when I worked for Vodafone and we started about talking about location-based services, everyone started laughing and the legal department said, guys, what are you doing? And I just read there that privacy issue is not an issue anymore. So because you can opt in but that is still what we're thinking of. And then we got great entrepreneurs with great products, but they thought only about the product. And there's also here, what about the customer demand? What about so customer demand, route to market? What's your market so in totally? So that's a lot of issues we have to overcome, I see at the moment, especially at the business model. And also all the stakeholders in the value chain. So when you ask me the future, then I see geofencing, I see with advertisement, I see possibilities. But maybe later in the talk I can go deeper into what specifics need to be done to achieve that also, because we have still some issues to overcome.
Tackling the inhibitors. Yeah. Okay, great. Lucien?
Well, to continue what Ben is saying, I still think privacy is a big issue because a A lot of people are discussing also about the service which we recently introduced, because we used content which is created by the community for creating traffic information. We use information from Vodafone users, which is, by the way, completely anonymously. I keep on repeating it because I know it's coming back. The same we do with TomTom users. So TomTom users have an option in program to help us in enhancing our service and quality. But also there you see that you have to do a lot about this privacy issue, and we saw some examples already earlier here, and I think a lot of people don't realize the questions we get at customer report. Like, for instance, people ask me, how can I remove my last few destinations?
Girlfriend.
Yeah, so I think that is really an issue.
And the future?
Well, the future, of course, is it will move on for sure. We, of course, are a navigation company, and we are looking more in going into the connected domain also, bringing more dynamic content, of course, what people want. So for sure there is a lot in this space.
Onno, you probably have a few announcements. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good. Yeah. Thanks.
What I'd like to point at is that location services is it's a very wide area. I mean, KPN has KPN Home Zone that you call for a fixed tariff with your cell phone when you're at home, for example. That's a location-based service as well. And we have a navigation solution, and we have our in the buurt services that using your web browser that you can tell the service where you are right now. So it's very wide, and so location itself is not the product, it's what you put it into, that's the service actually. And maybe we can have a talk about well, what services are most interesting, what do we really want, what are we waiting for, stuff like that.
Okay. So, what is your personal vision, long term, 5 years?
5 years.
Location-based services.
Well, my opinion is
What's
that
going to be the killer app?
5 years from now, we will see, in my opinion, that like what we saw with cell phones, that we were reachable everywhere, we will see that we are traceable everywhere. And that we need absolute control on what we show to whom, in what you show to each other. I think the ultimate act of trust will be that you will allow someone to be able to follow you 24/7. I mean, that's the ultimate thing to give to someone, where you are all the time.
Okay. Ben, what's your view about that?
No, okay, I think the most interesting thing is that the location-based services that change your perspective of where you are. Because when I'm at home, I know my neighbors, I know the shops, I know everything. Now I'm here. I know that I'm here, but I don't know what's around me, so my perception is different. So, for example, I would like to go to a restaurant tonight, and I see that I opt in, I have like MSN, I have all my friends, my community, and it's available, not available, and you can do that also. You opt in for restaurants at the moment in the neighborhood, and then they said, well, you have a nice, this is the daily menu, or you get like a cheaper something. And it's also when I have a present, I can opt in for certain retailers. And I think changing of perception due to location-based services, that is the great advantage.
Okay, now we have some statements from the MoMo team, a few ones. After that we go to the audience. It's the main part because the audience knows much more than the MoMo team, of course. First of all, let's look at the whole space. You have Nokia, Navtec, you have TomTom, Tele Atlas, you have Google hanging around somewhere, and you have Garmin, Microsoft. What's it going to be? 5 years. Key player. Nokia, Google, why?
The question is, who's going to be the big winner here?
Nou ja, that is impossible to say, but for me it was interesting that I heard that Nokia realized that they have to be an internet company. And it's really interesting because Vodafone, KPN is a really good example. They had to be a media company, but it's not the culture, it's not the core competence of KPN, or I think of Nokia, to be an internet, it's not a culture. And so it's really, you have to look at what's your core competence of your company, and you have to build from that. And so I see the companies who can do that really well, that's the companies who are going to win.
Well, what I would like to add also, but you see, of course, happening in the space that everything turns from fixed to soft. So you see that we are all moving from hardware, also what TomTom is doing, trying to move into services. I think that's really going to happen, and I think a lot of the operators have been thinking about it, but they are, I think, a little bit too late now. I think that Nokia is a good example. Moving just beyond, I think we also try to do something over there, but yeah, Google, of course, is the big beast at this moment we're all looking for.
Yeah, I just would like to add, I don't think, first of all, I agree with most what you just said with regards to the vision. But I don't think we really move beyond the operator. We're trying to move with the operator. And of course, we need to a little bit sometimes push ideas. So what we actually did, we kind of we could a little bit leapfrog the value chain and just come in a little bit earlier. This is maybe what we did. But trying to achieve this together. And actually coming up through the research that we did and through the acquisition of some companies to actually start involving the market and actually also make it visible to the operator what could be out there. I mean, you're a very good example with your traffic services, something that you together actually developed with the operator. This is achieving together, and I think this is going to be one of the key things for the next 5 years. Whoever is doing that will solidly grow on 2 tracks rather than one. If one is sinking, the other is not sinking, and I think that's kind of the core competence and the core issues.
I agree, but I think everybody is fighting, of course, for the control points. That's also what you see, and we try to get them out, and I think you try to do the same. So I think that's also one of the biggest things what you see at the moment.
Mm. You need to seed as early as possible. Yeah, if you harvesting is not that easy anymore, and I guess it's not that easy anymore for the operators. So seeding needs to be done very, very early in the value chain. This is where you create probability control.
There's a question.
Thank you very much. So we're also going to involve the audience a bit more in this discussion. I first would like to emphasize on one question which was asked on the back channel, and I quote Vincent. For Gate5, the question, you paid 6 billion for Navtech data. Why? And how are you going to make money out of this? And do you see yourself as a TomTom killer?
Well, thank you very much for that question. First of all, we haven't paid yet anything, so the acquisition is not yet done. This is up to regulation authority issues, and when the acquisition is done, we're gonna come up with an elaborate answer that will answer this kind of strategic term. One thing that needs to be stated very clearly is that an acquisition with Navtech does not harm any business that Navtech is doing today. So Navtech stays a mapping company. Clearly, I mean, one doesn't need to mention that we moving very strongly and very, I would say, agile into the location-based service market, and that means map data is one of the oxygens that we need, and I think that should answer most of the question.
But why did you buy Navtech?
As said, we need some oxygen, and as we're moving into the location-based service area environment, as you might have seen, launching the N95, it was very important that we came up with an application that included free mapping. So obviously, navigation was the killer application, but the trigger was free mapping. And where do you get free mapping from? Well, that's a question I can answer.
Anybody would like to comment on from the audience?
And one thing we don't want to be a TomTom killer. I don't know. I think the more competitors or good competitors and competitors on eyesight or competitors that actually fight in the same punching class, that's consolidating the market. That's beneficial for the end user, and that will make us, and as well as TomTom, as some other competitors, achieving the best products. It's necessary. It's good.
Well, perhaps as TomTom not being the guinea pig, I think just realized we made the first step. We thought it was a good idea to start this whole acquisition idea because we really believe that navigation and the next version of navigation, it's all about live maps, so really a live map. It's about the best navigation you can get, and it's about dynamic content, and those 3 things are key for us. And we think with the approach what we have, building our now community, we can do that. And that's why we thought, well, it's a good idea to buy a proposal to try to get Tail Atlas in. And we knew, of course, that there would be some kind of response from other companies like Nokia did. But so we really truly believe in our vision, and we're going to continue doing that.
Okay, what about Google? Let's take their recent moves. Android, G-Phone is coming, wireless spectrum, mobile, applications on mobile, content on mobile. If you combine all that and you relate it to Nokia.
That's the big absent party here.
They were asked to be here, but they declined, but that's okay. What are your views on that? Is it going to be huge, the Google impact, or in what way?
I find a really interesting development, Google cooperating with Apple, for example, creating the Maps application for the iPhone and the iPhone Touch, which is not a phone actually, but does have a location-based service based on its Wi-Fi capabilities. So it was Google, Apple, and the company that maps the Wi-Fi access points together that creates a location-based service suddenly. Yeah, Google, of course, is very strong in creating really good working, stable mobile clients that are fun to play with and that are screaming for combinations with other services. But I have not seen it happen yet, that the combination between the map and something on the map is taking place. I mean, you really see some small initiatives, but I think the killer app is yet to come.
Okay, and Nokia? What do you think about the moves from Google, recent moves?
Well, I think it's always a serious move when Google does something, and of course we're watching it very closely. But being afraid is the wrong word, or being, well, we just need to be concentrated. The asset that we have is obviously a community out there that is very big and very strong. By the pure market share and by the distribution power that we have, I think we're in a very good position actually to maintain that and actually use and grow this community that we have out there. So there is a certain point in time where you say you need to be as compatible as possible. So those existing 1 billion Nokia users on a daily basis can actually use common services distributed by Nokia. This is basically the answer that we have against any kind of Google activities.
Okay, any questions from audience? I see a question over there.
Yep, here.
In the UK, location-based services are much more readily available for small companies to provide location-based services such as Find My Child, that sort of stuff. And this is a question to KPN, when do you see those sort of services becoming available for the ecosystem of companies doing mobile business in the Netherlands? Is my question clear?
I didn't really hear it.
You can't hear. Hello? Shall I? Is this better? Shall I first start? Okay. Okay. In the UK, it's very easy to get location-based information. People can subscribe to location-based services, and therefore there's a whole load of companies starting up and have started in the last year, providing all sorts of services around location-based information, based on operator information. When do you see that sort of information becoming available for companies to provide commercially viable businesses in the Netherlands?
So can I rephrase your question? So you're asking when will I have an API that I can talk to? Is that what you're asking?
Not just an API, but when, for instance, in the UK, companies can just can ask subscribers to say, okay, I want this location-based service. They pay maybe 35p for it, and that's it. And a company can get location-based information from a consumer. So when do you see that sort of business becoming available in the Netherlands?
I think this year, actually. So in Germany and UK, you have a broker service already.
Yeah.
Okay. we see in other countries that there is a broker that provides access to locations of cell phones, basically. But the thing is, they are so expensive that many services are too expensive to actually work. Like a buddy finder that constantly keeps track of all your buddies is simply not going to work with that model because it's too expensive. So at KPN we are also struggling with the fact, well, if you want to provide some access to cell phone locations, first you actually want to cooperate with the other mobile operators, because at least half of your friends is not on the same network, so you will not be able to find them if you are solely working on the KPN network. So we are really trying to figure out what kind of model we want and what kind of model will work in order to make cell phone locations of all operators work together. And it's still not working yet. I mean, we are busy with that yet. Does it answer your question a bit, or?
There were some more questions from the audience.
Over here.
Are you working together with operators now? Are you in talks about...
Can you use a mic? Sorry, Ryan.
Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Raimo.
Yeah. Really?
Hi, Onno.
Hi, Raimo.
And are you in talks with the other operators then to get out of this problem?
Well, the simplest way is you just connecting your LBS servers. I mean, there's a server somewhere in our network. You can ask, where's this phone number? And it will give X, Y, and a radius back. Technically, the simplest thing to do would be to just connect our LBS server to the Nokia and to the T-Mobile server. But mobile operators are really reluctant to do that, because
You are
giving
willing.
access, yeah.
You are willing to do it, but the others are reluctant.
What? Sorry.
You are willing to integrate, but the others are reluctant.
Yeah, I think
Let's
most
just make it-
services will be more successful if we find out a way to connect to each other. I mean, I'm willing to connect to Vodafone to make this work.
Anyone from Vodafone here?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Ben.
So did you do any research for the customer demand? Is there some figures available for that?
Yes, but
And your
the
market
thing
size?
is, there is so little stuff working yet that it's really hard to ask your customer, well, would you like this scenario? I mean, that's not going to work. At least the results will not be reliable. So what we do is set up pilots and with closed user groups and find out what they like about that service.
Okay.
I have one more question here from the room. Robert.
Robert.
So how do you guys look at open source efforts like the OpenStreetMap project and stuff like that? I heard you mention 5 billion because there were no other maps available. I mean, OpenStreetMap is doing pretty fine, I hear. How do you experience the open source part of it all?
Good question.
Well, first of all, of course they're doing well, but we have to see this almost from a global perspective. So we need to have equally good maps for Sydney as well as for San Francisco. So we needed a global coverage, and we needed to have a company that has the equivalent roadmap and showing you the potential actually to build this up and actually to create this ecosystem. Companies, mapping companies themselves, of course, always have also an interesting content approach because they integrate a lot of layers actually already into the maps, and this is where you get part of this evaluation as well. Open source itself, extremely interesting. I think we're gonna come up in the course of this year with a little bit more elaborate answers when it comes to open source, but it will play a significant role to some extent, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I would like to add, I think we have been looking if there were alternatives, but I think the quality of the maps, what my colleague is saying, that's really one of the biggest issues. We thought, well, we have the possibility to enhance the quality. Only 30% of the earth is digitalized, and the quality in a lot of locations is rather poor. So we would like to enhance it further. And an open initiative is of course very good, and we will look to it also and to see what we can do over there. But I think we have to be realistic. The business case at the moment is just by selling more maps, you can enhance it.
Okay.
I see some questions on the back channel, which might be very interesting. Which one is already on the screen to Ben. Yeah. What are the major differences nowadays with the 2001 market, and would vis-a-vis now have a chance?
Yeah, I'm from the vis-a-vis in 2000, and now I think the model we had then, I mean, great. To integrate internet and SMS and mobile, that was a great model. But the problem, and that's why I said a little bit, kijk, Vodafone is not a media company, so we had a lot of problems with integration that. So you need to look at your core competence. I come back also at Nokia, and that sounds also for TomTom. So in fact, it's a great concept vis-a-vis. It should work, but you have to look at what is your company good at, and Vodafone is not good at a media company. KPN is not good at a media company. So be a pipeline, and that's it. But I have also a question. I would like to talk also about the future, the models. I mean, we talk about advertising models, was really simple. Well, we go to the advertisement model, but is there enough for all those great services?
Go ahead, feel free.
Nou ja,
what do you think?
Now, can we start? Yeah. No, of course, I believe in the advertisement model, but we have to be really careful what we need to do, because we can make a really good service. But I see at the advertisers, at the media agencies, we have to develop, we have to educate, we have to do a lot that they really say, hey, that is good, and it's easy, because when Yuri, when you are the marketing director of, for example, Nokia, and you ask Nokia how much mobile advertisement, geofencing are you doing at the moment? 0.0.
Well, that's not really true, but...
Nou ja, it's of the total budget, it's 0.00001%. So even when Nokia is not doing it, Vodafone, KPN is doing pretty good. What are my compliments? So we need to educate, do a lot of MoMos, and standardization is really important. So we need to do that to give that advertisement boost also in this media world.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with it. Sorry, just one word. I absolutely agree with this. When we see business models going back and forth and having a lot of companies actually that want to collaborate with us, we always see that this what's the business model is always advertising. So it's a little bit of a déjà vu, like 5-6 years ago, and so advertising might be the holy grail, but it's very difficult to get to the holy grail. And absolutely, we need to get those standards, and we need to have kind of create a mix. And one thing also with regards to the great presentations that we saw today of the 5 cases, you need to have a critical mass of eyeballs to create advertising. It's not that easy. So I think we just been through this learning. We're just trying to prepare to get out of it. And it just needs to be absolutely recalled every day. It's critical mass, and without critical mass, you're not going to achieve anything in terms of advertising.
I saw another. Well, if somebody would like to comment on that, but I see another interesting question on the back channel. Maybe later we're going to get some more questions. But I see this quote: "You're losing the fight with Google by thinking about business models instead of added value." So, what do you think about that? Anyone?
Your question is, what is location worth?
No, I think it's a comment. Who made the comment on the back channel?
What?
Can you please comment?
Yeah, you're all really thinking about how to make money and not how to, well, please consumer. I heard Ben comment on that in the beginning, but all I hear was, well, it's so hard to make everything work together, and we want to work together, but all the other parties won't work together. But what about consumers?
So what about the consumer? I mean, what do they want? Is that
it's for me. It's for me.
Are they willing to pay?
That's exactly my point.
I thought it was
where's the added value?
No, it starts of course with the consumer. But you know what? Kijk, when I was at Vodafone, we had to decide what is the price of a ringtone, and we sat in a room was a little bit less people, but they said, well, do €2, it's okay, or 2.50. No, let's do it €2. We just made up something, And I know it's a nice business to pay per download, to pay per subscription, subscription, also for your services. But in the end, that people, consumers, they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay for content. So that's why you go to the advertisement model. When you know a lot of more models, please come to me. And that is ending. Yeah. So of course, but you don't want to. It must be not pissing off customers. Of course, you have to do it really target, really well. But in the end, someone has to pay. And why is mobile internet? Why it wasn't used? We did a lot of research. It was number one. It is zo'n gedoe. We have a very good Dutch phrase. Yeah. It's zo'n gedoe. It's something in English also. And the second part was price. They didn't do it because it was too expensive. We put it too high in the market. And with advertising, we can that price barrier, we can take it away. But I think you want to react on this.
Well, I think what we, of course, we have been discussing this a lot, or not only internally about how we are going to introduce a service and are we going to ask money for it. But I think what a lot of people have said to us, you as TomTom have shown to the world that people are willing to pay for navigation. So we have this one. That's in the beginning, people were not willing to pay for a mobile device. They were sponsored, and of course you have to pay for the service. So what we are now in the middle of this whole fight. Okay, what's the next step? Are we going to subsidize it by using advertisement things and all the stuff or not? One of the big problems we have with advertising at the moment, and we discussed it already in advance, is that everybody is on the back on for us, not only on privacy, but also on safety. You don't want an advertorial while you're driving in a street, because it can cause an incident and you will have a big issue over there. That's one of the issues we have, for instance, going into this area as TomTom. So we are trying to find out what we can do, and I think when people are not in the car, you can do something over there, but especially during a trip, it's a difficult one for us.
Okay. I have a question for Ben. Social LBS applications will be more successful than commercial LBS applications. What do you think?
Yeah, I remember in 2000 that commercial of KPN, that it was a futuristic, yes, you remember, futuristic environment where two people met each other. The UMTS frequencies were sold, and that was the new service. So the social part, yeah. But are you willing? No, it can be for free. Yeah, I don't know. I cannot look in the mirror. I cannot look. Maybe you can, but I cannot look in the
I have one simple question for the two gentlemen, Nokia and TomTom. You have two models. You have TomTom, who makes billions and billions of dollars. 5 years ago you were $2 million and now you're 1.5. And on the other hand, Nokia doesn't make any money but spend a lot of money. In the middle, there is Nav4All. It's a little Dutch company which makes navigation software on the mobile phone, 500 different models. I used it. I use your high definition. The only reason I still use some TomTom is because of the high definition traffic information, because they don't have that.
Thank you.
We have fine. But I don't have to pay for Nav4All. It works on all the things. And it's advertisement driven. What is the future of the navigation market? Is it TomTom device plus pay for services? Or is it Nav4All, which basically provides it for free with very targeted, smart advertising, and which has now more than 2 million users? What do you two think about that? And the other ones can comment.
Thanks.
Well, I think there is room for both models, that's for sure. So there are a lot of people who just would like to have P&D in which is doing what they want. And you have, of course, another group who is more looking for the smartphone solution. So I think there is room for both, and that's also what we as TomTom, what we are working on. So we are not going to say at this moment it will be either one, it will be the other one. I think both will be available, and we will see how it will end up. It also has to do with capacity in the network, because do realize if everybody starts navigating with the service like that one, the operators cannot handle it. At the moment they already have problems with the number of subscriptions we are telling them for HD traffic, and that's not the models they are looking for at this moment. So capacity in the network is an issue. So
first of all, that's a very good question, but it's an interesting statement. We do make revenues with what we offer today. So we have an upsell. We have a trigger. We have free maps, basically for everyone, being pre-installed or downloadable from our website. But on the other hand, there is an upsell to real-time navigation and a couple of services. that is generating substantial revenues. It is on the one hand, of course, that is how we basically pattern our motorway, and this is how we will continue. Navigation will be a main feature, still is. Surely we concentrate on mobile and not on PNDs, although we are still a little bit existent in the PND space. But navigation will be one feature amongst many others. And the word of community and all this came in here is still not be defined. There was, I think you gave the right answer how to do this is very difficult. Also taking the little bit anarchistic environment of a community, if you come in with advertising, you might harm that and you might immediately lose that community. So, but in essential, we're going to have navigation as one, as many other features. It's going to be one amongst 10 or 15.
And what about the business LBS market? Are you currently offering applications for this market instead of the consumer market?
Well, at the moment, the application that we offer is Nokia Maps, and that is it's an application that includes paid service that does work. That's a proven concept for us in the year 2006 and 2007. It does work because it's not for free available anywhere else. That's why it works. And this is part of that's the application. Yeah.
Okay. And KPN?
Yeah. I think Vincent's question is also to do with: do you want a dedicated device for navigation, or is it acceptable that it works on your phone? And I think, like you said, there's room for both. I think there will be categories of customers that want a dedicated navigation device. And TomTom now actually is turning it sort of into a phone, but it's still a navigation device. And Nokia is turning their phones sort of into a navigation device, but it's still a phone. But point is, you want to be more and more online for the value-added services on top of the maps. And that's where the operator comes in. I mean, you want updated information about traffic control, about speed controls, like points of interest, and they tend to change all the time. So you want to be online with your navigation device.
Yuri?
Yeah.
Oh.
Can we maybe...
Any questions in the audience? Yeah.
Yeah, there were some more interesting questions on the back channel. Mark, can you maybe put them on the screen?
I'll wait with the back channel. I want to interrupt a little bit on this discussion because we had 5 great examples from Dutch companies showing off their location-based services. I'd like to hear your view on those examples and which you see being very successful in the near future and which ones won't.
No, I would like first to comment. Is it allowed that I comment on what he?
Of course.
Thank
then
you.
we go to Mark.
So you said you have to look at the value-added services, and then the operators come into. But I think the operators will become more and more a pipeline, and that we need. Okay, so that was. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, well, okay, the operators are squeezed between the device manufacturers and the network internet parties. I mean, they want a piece of the pie as well. So, that's clear.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now the question for Mark about which cases presented earlier do have your preference? If you have to take one, which of the 5 cases?
Okay.
Well, if I have to take, there were 2 which I liked.
Please tell us why.
Yeah, well, I think if I have to choose only one, I would choose the Roomware project. So I thought had a lot of potential, not only because it's open source, but also from if you look to the technology and what you're trying to achieve over there. I think that's really interesting. Not specifically from TomTom perspective, but just as in general, I really think the problem what we have everywhere is just getting those data out and connecting it to. That's really one of the nicest things about this solution, which I really like.
Great, thanks. Ben?
What's
your pick?
Sorry?
What's your pick? You choose.
So I use Tracker. I use Tracker, and I will explain it also.
It was in English.
But I have so my model I use is first I look at is there customer demand. Now for all services, they don't know what you said, or they don't know what it is, so it's difficult. But with Tracker you can think of something. Yeah. The second thing I look, is the product okay? Now I use Tracker, it worked. So yeah, and in fact that is important. The third thing, how big is the market size? And yeah, I mean, it's a niche, but maybe you can think of a market size. And then you think of, and that I think is the issue, you route to market. How they're going to bring it really to the market? And then they need maybe an operator, or they need something that is the... Now, I think the technological feasibility will be pretty good, and in the end, economics, and they will make... They already thought about economics, and that's the start. So, Tracker?
Okay, great. Onno?
Yeah.
Your favorite?
Well, I've been listening carefully to all of the presentations, and I've assigned some pluses and minuses. But ultimately, what they all lack is critical mass. And so some will be successful because they are easy to use and easy to understand and easy to explain. I think Tracker is very interesting. Because of the ease of use and I think the how do you call it, maturity of the solution. But what I'm missing in all these solutions is no,
so especially
okay, one thing more about the Tracker thing. I'm missing the social aspect here, the link to a social community.
It can be social.
But yes, but they will make it.
They will make it.
He
announced it. He announced it. I know, but
they will make it for you.
Yeah, but please connect to some social community, and then you will be successful. That's my advice to them.
You can find the social community on Blin. That's what Blin offers much more than Tracker. So I don't understand why I like Tracker so much.
I would like to react on that. I'm a really simple user. So yesterday I start Tracker and I start with Blin, and Blin didn't work. Yeah, and I mean it's a one-time moment. I know, and it's not. But yeah, that's a pity then. So yeah, it was my mistake, I think. But so that's why I used Tracker.
It's not your mistake.
So sorry, I have to excuse me. My Dutch language knowledge is not too. It's quite limited. So, but just what I saw from the slides is well, I like Tracker very much. Although I agree, I missed the words lacking the social aspect still. But if this is added, then I think it's a pretty perfect and good to use solution. I also use it myself. I think it's pretty good. And the Roomba project was quite impressive. So especially from a open source point of view, I think that has a lot of extreme potential.
Do you have one particular LBS case which is really important to share, which we didn't discuss earlier today? Maximilian?
Well, I think there are many actually, but
you have to choose one.
One we didn't share, one we didn't discuss at all. Maybe is to talk about where does. I mean, there was one screen from the Blin application. Where does Facebook come in? What's happening to Facebook? What kind of platform is Facebook? Why is it working? And why is it? Maybe it has been underestimated from the beginning. Why is it now flourishing so extremely? And where does this fit into this context? And why is Facebook better than others? And I think that's one of the discussions where presence and basically context and location come together. And looking at the vast and extreme evaluation, or just the incredible platform, the technology that's behind it, and all the challenges. How to monetize. It could be that, I think, is Facebook doing the same mistake as MySpace?
We'll see.
How can you monetize this? If you can't monetize it, or if you start monetizing it, losing members, or losing members, you
and Onno, do you have a favorite case?
Well, first of all, I have a question. I wrote down before this meeting, what is the relation between Nokia and Facebook? Because I read some announced cooperation between them.
There is
Can you answer
here,
that,
I guess.
please? Or is it?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
Later on, in the drinks.
My favorite location-based service. Well, I think we have to find that in the link between location and social community. I mean, I think if we find the biggest social network in the Netherlands and we enhance that with location, for example, then we might have a killer app, and that is exactly what we are talking about internally.
Okay, thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, then what I like to keep it what is now possible, and when I see a navigation handset and when you just navigate through the streets, that is possible. That's what I like most. Just I walk somewhere, I don't know the place, and I navigate. Also, that cycling, that you cycle somewhere with your mountain bike, that's also nice, and that you see your average speed and walking. So that's also good.
Yeah. Well, first of all, of course, I like my traffic service a lot. But what I'm also amazed about is that we introduced something just to improve the map itself, map share, and that so many people are helping or working in enhancing this. So
yeah, but besides the TomTom, you have something else which inspires you?
Well, there's a lot which inspires me, of course.
On the LBS application
well, I think there are a lot of interesting things on what Google is doing at the moment, and like what they recently did in getting, without having the data from the operator, trying to decide where you are, doing some smart stuff, and by that finding where you are, and then having enhanced services over that, like finding restaurants, and it's very nice and handy to use.
Thanks. One final question from the audience. Anyone?
Who has the question except from...
Could somebody please
product service announcement?
Okay.
They're putting wheel clamps on cars outside.
I think everybody is thirsty.
As a panel member. So, Claire, it's finished? Okay, ready. Okay, I would like to thank you all very, very much. Well, I will give please work for the whole panel.